up. Badly. I don't even know where to start. And I sure as hell don't know how this is gonna end. All I know is that if you're reading this, I probably won't be around to tell you how it ends myself. It all started because I was being a cheap piece of shit. See, I have a bit of a habit, nothing crazy, just some recreational use. Coke mostly, sometimes MDMA when I'm feeling like a good time. I've got a guy, but he charges a fuck ton, and after a while, I started getting sick of dropping $100 every time I wanted to have a little fun. That's when I got the dumbass idea to check out the dark web. I'd read about it before, knew the risks, but people were always talking about how easy it was. Use a VPN, get Tor, buy with Bitcoin, blah blah blah. I watched some YouTube tutorials, found a marketplace that looked legit, Deep Bay or some shit, and started browsing. Sure enough, there were listings for Coke, MDMA, even prescription stuff. Prices were a hell of a lot better than my usual guy, so I figured, fuck it. I bought from some seller with a bunch of 5-star reviews. Top tier shit, pure, discreet shipping, all the usual bullshit they say, to make it sound legit. I ordered an 8-ball, paid in Bitcoin, and waited. A week later, a small, nondescript package showed up in my mailbox. No return address, no markings. Looked like it could have been a book or some Amazon order. I took it inside, opened it up, and sure enough, there was a little vacuum-sealed bag inside, tucked between 2 folded-up sheets of paper. The Coke looked good, powdery, fine, no weird smell. But the papers? That was the first thing that made me feel off. It wasn't just regular stuffing paper, it was a printout. Pictures, actually, and not just any pictures. They were of me. One was outside my apartment, another at the gas station by my place, another of me inside a fucking Walmart, looking at my phone. The angles were weird, like they were taken from inside a car or from across the street. My stomach fucking dropped. I started sweating. I told myself maybe it was just some sick joke, but deep down I knew I'd fucked up. I should have thrown the package away, should have just walked the fuck out and never touched that shit. But addiction makes you do stupid things. I told myself I was being paranoid, that it was just some seller's way of intimidating people into not scamming them. I cut out a line, did a bump, and tried to forget about it. A few hours later, I got a text. Unknown number, enjoying the product? My hands went ice cold. I didn't respond. A minute later, another message. Unknown number, you owe me more. What the fuck? I already paid. The listing was clear. I sent the Bitcoin, the order was confirmed. Wasn't about to get shaken down by some random seller. Me. Who is this? No response. I waited, staring at my phone like an idiot. 5 minutes passed. Then another text. Unknown number, don't ignore me. I know where you live. I felt like I was going to puke. My heart was racing, and I could feel that kind of nervous sweat that makes your whole body itch. I typed as fast as I could. Me. I already paid. We're done. A few seconds later, a picture came through. It was my front door, taken at night. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my living room with a baseball bat, jumping at every little sound. I live in a pretty standard apartment complex. 1 bedroom, 3rd floor, decent neighborhood, but nothing fancy. I kept looking out the window, checking my door, making sure everything was locked. Nothing happened. For a few days, things were quiet. I convinced myself it was some scare tactic, that if I ignored it, it'd go away. That was mistake number 2. 3 nights later, I woke up to a notification from my Ring camera. Motion detected. My stomach felt like it was full of broken glass as I pulled up the app. The footage was short. Just a few seconds. Some guy in a hoodie standing at my door, facing the camera. Not moving, just standing there. His face was mostly covered, but I could tell he was looking right at the lens, like he wanted me to see him. Then he did something that nearly made me piss myself. He pulled out a knife and slowly ran the blade along my doorframe. Not slashing, not stabbing, just dragging it. Like he was leaving a mark, like he was making a promise. I called the cops. They showed up half an hour later, did a lazy lap around the complex, and told me to call back if something happens. By the time they left, I felt like the dumbest motherfucker on the planet. What the hell was I going to do? Move? Run? I had work, bills, a life. I couldn't just up and vanish because some dealer decided to fuck with me. I needed help. I needed someone who knew how to deal with people like this. So I made my third mistake. I called my usual dealer. I called Rico. He's my usual guy. Not exactly a friend, but someone I've been buying from for a couple of years. He's an older dude, maybe mid-40s, used to be in a gang back in the day, but now just sells to people like me, casual users who don't want to deal with cartel-level shit. He picked up on the second ring. Yo. I hesitated. I didn't want to sound like a paranoid little bitch, but I also didn't have time for small talk. I need your help, man, he sighed. You good? No, man, I fucked up. I took a deep breath. I bored off the dark web. Silence. Then he let out this low, amused chuckle. Dumbass. I know, I said. But listen, I think they're after me. That got his attention. What you mean? I explained everything. The package, the pictures, the texts, the guy at my door. Rico didn't interrupt once, which wasn't like him. When I finished, there was another long silence. Then he said, Yeah, you fucked up. No shit, man. He sighed again, but this time it wasn't amusement. It was something else. Listen, bro, you don't know who you're dealing with. These ain't street dealers. They ain't some punk-ass kids trying to scam you. These motherfuckers, they don't play. My mouth was dry. So what do I do? Rico didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was lower. Where you at right now? At my place. Pack a bag. Don't take your car. Get an Uber. Go to a hotel. Pay cash. Give me an hour. I didn't argue. I threw some shit into a backpack. Clothes, charger, some cash, a knife from my kitchen. I left my apartment so fast I forgot to turn off the lights. I got an Uber to some cheap-ass Motel 6 on the other side of town. The place smelled like cigarettes and piss, and the guy at the front desk looked like he was 2 weeks away from overdosing, but I didn't care. I just needed somewhere to lay low. Rico showed up about an hour later. He didn't come alone. He brought a guy I'd never seen before. Big motherfucker, bald, covered in tattoos. Walked into my motel room like he owned the place. Looked around like he was scanning for threats, then turned to me. This him? He asked Rico. Yeah, Rico said. This my guy. Bald dude looked at me. His eyes were cold. You fucked up, kid. I fucking know that, I snapped. Can someone just tell me what the fuck is going on? Bald guy pulled up a chair, sat down. You ever hear of the Silas crew? I shook my head. He smirked. Figures. That's because they don't like people knowing about them. He leaned forward. They run a big chunk of the dark web drug trade, not your average street-level shit. These guys move weight, kilos. They don't sell to users, they sell to distributors. Then why the fuck did they sell to me? They didn't. A chill ran down my spine. What? You think you bought coke from some random vendor? Bald guy shook his head. Nah, that was a setup. I stared at him. A setup for what? To launder money, Rico said. I turned to him. What? They use buyers like you to wash their crypto. You think you paid them for coke? Nah, bro, that Bitcoin you sent? It got passed through 10 different wallets before it landed where it needed to go. By the time it did, it was clean. I felt sick. Bald guy cracked his knuckles. And now they got you on the hook. I swallowed. What do they want? More money. I shook my head. I don't have more money. Bald guy shrugged. Then you're fucked. I stood up, pacing. Okay, so what the fuck do I do? Rico rubbed his temples. They already made contact, that means they ain't gonna stop. So what? I just keep paying them? Bald guy chuckled. Nah, kid, you ain't paying them, you're working for them now. My stomach twisted. What? Rico sighed. They'll make you do runs, mule shit, hold product, move it, maybe worse. Number no fucking way. Bald guy's face went hard. Then they kill you. The room went silent. I felt like the walls were closing in. This wasn't happening. This wasn't fucking happening. Rico stood up, put a hand on my shoulder. Listen, man, you got two options. Work for them or disappear. I looked at him. Disappear? Bald guy smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Yeah, we know a guy. He makes problems like this go away. New ID, new life. I felt like I was gonna throw up. Rico looked me dead in the eyes. But you gotta decide now, 'cause they ain't gonna wait. I sat down on the motel bed, my hands shaking. I was in deep, way deeper than I'd ever been before, and I had no fucking idea what to do next. I sat on that motel bed, staring at the stained carpet, trying to process everything. My life, my actual, normal fucking life, was over. If I didn't do what these people wanted, I was dead. If I ran, I'd be looking over my shoulder for the rest of my life. Rico and Bald Guy, whose name I later found out was Leon, just sat there, letting me drown in my own thoughts. I finally spoke. So what do I do? Rico and Leon exchanged a look. Then Leon leaned forward. We need to meet with them. My stomach turned. Are you fucking insane? They already know who you are, where you live, and they've made contact, Leon said. They're expecting you to respond. If you don't, that's when shit gets real. I looked at Rico, hoping he'd disagree. He didn't. Leon's right, he said. If you ghost them, they're going to take that as disrespect. And trust me, man, you don't want to disrespect these guys. I ran my hands through my hair. What's the plan then? I just show up and beg for my life? Leon grinned. Not exactly. I didn't like the way he said that. They set up the meeting for the next night. I didn't go home. I stayed in the motel, paranoid as fuck, jumping at every little sound. I barely slept. When I finally did doze off, I had nightmares. Shit I can't even describe. Just dark figures watching me from the corners of my vision, whispering my name. By the time night rolled around, I felt like I was coming up on the tail end of a 3-day bender. My stomach was fucked, my head was pounding, and I had the constant, horrible feeling that something was about to go terribly wrong. Rico and Leon picked me up around 10 p.m. They drove a blacked-out Chevy Tahoe, the kind of car you see in movies when someone's about to get snatched off the street. Leon was driving. Rico sat in the back with me. You sure about this? I asked him. No, he said. Great. We drove in silence for a while. I tried to figure out where we were going, but after a few turns, I was lost. We were heading out of the city, that was for sure. Streetlights got further apart, buildings turned into warehouses, then warehouses turned into just nothing. Empty roads, trees, and pitch-black nothingness. Eventually, Leon pulled off onto a dirt road. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. Yo, I said, where the fuck are we? Meeting spot, Leon said. We drove another minute before I saw them. 2 cars, a black Mercedes and a white van, 4 guys standing outside smoking, dressed casual, hoodies, jeans, but they carried themselves like people who weren't afraid of violence. My throat went dry. Leon killed the engine. No one moved for a second. Then he looked at me in the rear view. Let me do the talking. I nodded, my mouth too dry to speak. We got out. One of the guys, the one standing by the Mercedes, looked up. He wasn't big, but he had that vibe. The kind that makes you feel small even if you're taller than him. Shaved head, cigarette in his hand, tattoos creeping up his neck. He smirked when he saw me. There he is, the little crypto boy. I didn't know what to say, so I said nothing. Leon stepped forward. We got your messages. Tattoo guy nodded. Good. Thought maybe your boy was going to be stupid. Leon shrugged. He's here, ain't he? Tattoo guy looked at me. You know who we are? I swallowed. Silas crew? He grinned. Close enough. He flicked his cigarette away. You fucked up, man. I clenched my fists. I didn't know. I don't give a fuck what you knew. Silence. Tattoo guy stared at me for a long moment. Then he nodded to the van. Get in. My stomach dropped. Leon tensed. That wasn't the deal. Tattoo guy shrugged. Deals change. Rico put a hand on my shoulder. Stay calm. I wasn't fucking calm. Every instinct in my body was screaming at me to run. But where? Into the woods? They'd chase me down and gut me like a fucking animal. Tattoo guy sighed. Listen, kid, we're not going to kill you. He smiled. Yet. That word, yet, hit me like a bullet to the gut. You want to make this right? Tattoo guy continued. We got a job for you. I hesitated. What kind of job? Tattoo guy motioned to the van. Get in, you'll find out. I looked at Rico. I looked at Leon. Neither of them spoke. I had no choice. I got in the van. The van smelled like cigarettes, sweat, and something else. Something metallic. The kind of smell that clings to your clothes. The kind of smell that made my stomach turn. There were no seats in the back, just a metal floor and a few crates pushed to the side. The inside was dimly lit by a single overhead light, and as soon as I sat down I felt it. Something was wrong. Tattoo guy climbed in after me, pulling the doors shut behind him. One of his guys got into the driver's seat. The van rumbled to life and we started moving. I swallowed hard. My heart was beating so fast, I could hear it in my ears. Tattoo guy sat across from me, his elbows resting on his knees. He pulled out a pack of cigarettes, tapped one against the side, then lit it. The glow of the lighter flickered against his face, casting shadows in the hollows of his eyes. You ever killed someone before? He asked casually. I felt ice in my veins. What? Tattoo guy exhaled smoke, watching me through the haze. It's a simple question. I shook my head. Number? Of course not. He nodded like he expected that answer. Then he leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. You ever watch someone die? I hesitated. I had. A few years ago, I was leaving a club, downtown, high as fuck, when some drunk dude got into a fight outside. He took a bad hit, fell, smacked his head on the curb. He didn't get up. The paramedics came, but it was too late. I remember standing there, watching them work on him, watching as his face slowly lost color. I never told anyone how that shit stuck with me, how it haunted me in quiet moments, how I sometimes saw his face when I closed my eyes. Tattoo guy saw the look on my face and grinned. That's good, he said. Means you won't puke. I wanted to ask what the fuck he meant, but I already knew. This wasn't just a job, this was a test. We drove for about 15 minutes. Every second felt like an hour. The whole time, Tattoo guy just watched me, smoking one cigarette after another. I was sweating through my shirt, my hands slick against my jeans. Then we stopped. The driver killed the engine. Silence. Tattoo guy flicked his cigarette away. Then he pulled something from his waistband and set it on the floor between us. A gun, black, heavy, looked old but well taken care of. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Tattoo guy leaned back, stretching his arms. Time to see if you're worth keeping alive, The back doors of the van swung open. Cold air rushed in, making me shiver. We were in some kind of abandoned lot, cracked pavement, weeds growing through the concrete. A single floodlight buzzed in the distance, casting long shadows. And in the middle of it all, kneeling on the ground, was a man. His hands were tied behind his back, his face was swollen, blood trickling from his nose. He was wearing a dirty white tank top, jeans, no shoes. His head was down, his whole body shaking. Tattoo guy climbed out of the van. He grabbed the gun off the floor and held it out to me. "Take it!" I didn't move. "Take the fucking gun!" he said, his voice sharper now. I reached out, my fingers trembling, and took it. It was heavier than I expected. The weight of it sent a chill through my entire body. Tattoo guy nodded toward the man on the ground. "Shoot him." I swallowed. "Why?" Tattoo guy smirked. "Because I said so." I turned to Rico. He was standing off to the side with Leon, arms crossed, his face unreadable. He wasn't stopping this. He wasn't helping me. I looked back at the man on the ground. His shoulders were shaking. I realized he was crying. My throat was dry. "I can't." Tattoo guy clicked his tongue. "Wrong answer." Before I could react, he pulled a knife from his pocket and stepped behind the guy. Then, without hesitation, he sliced open his throat. The man let out a wet, choking gasp. Blood gushed down his chest, pooling at his knees. His body convulsed. His mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. His eyes locked onto mine, wide and pleading. I couldn't move, I couldn't breathe. I watched as his life drained out of him, his body going slack. The choking sounds slowed, then stopped. Silence. Tattoo guy wiped the knife on his jeans, then looked at me. "See? Easy." I felt like I was going to throw up. My legs were shaking so bad I thought I might collapse. Tattoo guy stepped closer, the blood still glistening on his hands. He put a hand on my shoulder. "You belong to us now," he said. His grip tightened. "You try to run, you end up just like him." I wanted to scream, I wanted to cry, I wanted to wake the fuck up. But I couldn't do any of that, because I knew I was trapped. I didn't sleep that night. After they killed the guy, we got back in the van. No one spoke. Rico, Leon, Tattoo guy. They all acted like nothing had happened, like we hadn't just watched a man bleed out on the pavement, like his body wasn't still laying there, eyes wide open, mouth twisted in some frozen scream. I just sat there, gripping my knees, trying to stop shaking. They dropped me back at the motel around 3 a.m. Rico told me to stay put, like I had anywhere else to fucking go. I sat on the bed, staring at the wall, my ears still ringing from the sound of that man choking on his own blood. I had two choices: run, or do whatever the fuck they told me. The next day, I got a text. "Unknown, number, welcome to the family." My stomach twisted. Then another message came in. "Unknown. Number, time for your first job. 4 p.m. We'll pick you up." I didn't answer. I just sat there, gripping my phone so hard my fingers ached. I had to get the fuck out. I still had my car parked outside my apartment. My ID. A few thousand in cash I kept stashed in my closet. If I left now, I could drive out of state, maybe even cross the border. Mexico, Canada, somewhere. Anywhere that wasn't here. I grabbed my backpack, stuffed in some clothes, my charger, my knife. I was ready to walk out when my phone buzzed again. "Unknown number, don't even think about it." I froze. Another text came through. "Unknown. Number, check your email." I sat down on the bed, my body going cold. I didn't want to, but I did what they said. I opened my email. There was a video file, no subject, no sender name, just a video. I tapped it. The screen lit up with security camera footage. At first, I didn't recognize where it was. Then my heart dropped into my stomach. It was my apartment building. The footage showed the hallway outside my unit. The timestamp was from last night, while I was still at the motel. A man was standing outside my door, not one of Tattoo Guy's crew, someone else. Then suddenly the door opened. My fucking landlord. The camera angle wasn't great, but I could see them talking. The man handed my landlord something, looked like a fat envelope. Then the landlord gave him a key. The video ended. I felt like I was going to puke. They had access to my place, my fucking home. They could be in there right now waiting. Another text, unknown number, 4 p.m. Don't be late. I wasn't late. They picked me up in the same black Tahoe. This time, it was just Leon. I got in without a word. Leon drove in silence for about 20 minutes, taking roads I didn't recognize. I kept my hands in my lap, trying to stop them from shaking. Finally, he spoke. You tried to run. It wasn't a question. I didn't answer. Leon smirked. You don't get it yet, do you? I swallowed hard. Get what? He glanced at me, eyes cold. You don't have a life anymore? I looked out the window, trying to control my breathing. 15 more minutes passed. Then he pulled into an empty parking lot outside an old, run-down strip mall. The kind of place that used to have a laundromat and a liquor store, but had been abandoned for years. There was only one other car there, a beat-up grey Honda Civic. And inside that car, someone was tied up in the trunk. I could see their legs kicking. Leon turned to me. You're doing this one? My whole body went numb. Number no fucking way. Leon's expression didn't change. You want to keep breathing? You do it. I shook my head, panic rising in my throat. I can't. Leon reached into his jacket and pulled out a photo. He tossed it onto my lap. I looked down, and my heart stopped. It was my mum, standing outside her house, watering the plants. Leon's voice was flat. Do the job, or we take her instead. I wish I could tell you I was strong. I wish I could tell you I fought back, that I found some way out. But I didn't. I did what they told me. They gave me the gun. They opened the trunk. The person inside was a kid. Couldn't have been more than 19. He was gagged, eyes wide with terror. His face was bruised, blood running from his nose. I will never forget the sound he made when he saw the gun. I wanted to run. I wanted to scream. I wanted to do anything, but what I did, I pulled the trigger. The gunshot echoed through the parking lot. The kid went still. I dropped the gun. My hands were covered in blood. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I couldn't be. Leon picked up the gun and tucked it back into his jacket. He patted my shoulder. Welcome to the business, kid. Then we got back in the car and drove away. That was 2 weeks ago. I don't know how many more jobs they'll make me do. I don't know if I'll ever get out. I can't go to the cops. I can't run. They have everything on me now. Video proof, a fucking body count. And every time my phone buzzes, I feel sick, because I know it's them.